All right, it is week 10 is over with. It is now week 11. Mm-hmm. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Wrap-Up. I am your host, Blake Randall, along with my co-host, Jesse Geary.
Ooh.
Oh, that was a deep one right there. That was a little bit long one right there. Your Packers won.
Feeling good.
You feeling it now.
Ooh.
How about those Rams, though?
Jared Goff's looking hot.
He is.
Burning when you touch him.
I mean,
rough.
Sean McVay has this team on a roll right now.
Everybody. Robert Woods is putting the team on his back. From a receiving standpoint, Jesus. That 94-yard touchdown pass. I'm jealous I didn't get him.
That's everything that Sammy Watkins is supposed to be doing, too. But it's working out all right for the Rams.
Hey, maybe they're saying, you know what? We know what Sammy can do. Let's double him. And then Robert Woods is back here like, I'm about to torch you.
Mm-hmm.
And,
as a high-paid Tavon Austin sits on the sidelines cheering him on that he's on a winning team.
Hey, right.
So, we have some news. Let's get into the news from Week 10. Touch on that for me.
Let's go with injuries. I'm going Richard Sherman tore his Achilles. He said it's been bothering him for a few weeks. This hurts their defense big time. You're taking away half the field when you lose Richard Sherman. So, I'm nervous. I'm scared.
If you're Seattle?
If I have Seattle's defense. Or I'm thinking about Seattle's defense, period, because Earl Thomas is already out. That front seven hasn't played well. Cliff Avrill's been out for a while. They just haven't got a consistent pass rush, which is crazy because it's the Seahawks. Really, Bobby Wagner has been the driving, consistent force. I mean, Cam Chancellor isn't even really doing Cam Chancellor things this year because he's taken out of that element. He's in coverage too much. It's not the same Legion of Boom that it has been. So,
no, basically now that he failed the physical for the trade, so it didn't happen. So Jeremy Lane's the top corner there, and with the team wanting to trade him, that really doesn't show their trust in him.
Yeah. So
now they're stuck with him.
I'm licking my chops at this matchup with the Falcons coming to town because Julio might have a field day with this defense.
I mean, as a Rams fan, as a Rams fan, I'm definitely licking my chops just because it's just one step closer to that division.
Yeah, it changes the whole NFC. It really does.
Ooh, and I'm loving it. I am loving it.
All right.
So
another point, and talking about NFC, Curtis Samuel going out with that ankle injury, putting on IR, torn ligaments. That's a big letdown because that kid was open. He was balling out. He looked fast. He looked explosive. He had a few drops, which is. I mean, you got a kid coming in who this kid backed up Ezekiel Elliott at Ohio State. He has 700 yards receiving, 700 yards rushing in a season in college. Only player to ever do that. This is an explosive player that they're losing. Mm-hmm. The reason they got rid of Benjamin was to get this kid on the field.
Yeah,
and teams had the game plan for this kid.
Yeah, basically, getting rid of Benjamin was, so they didn't have two big receivers who were not fast.
Doing the same thing.
Both guys were doing the same thing. So basically, they didn't have to worry about having guys in coverage. We don't have to, we can just go back and not worry about the deep ball because these guys aren't going to beat us.
Yeah.
Now, when you had Curtis Samuel out there, you're opening up the field for Devin Funchess, and that's what happened on Monday Night Football.
Yeah. I think Benjamin, I'm just going to touch on that, complimenting them. Benjamin and Funchess are kind of like the same guys. Benjamin plays bigger and stronger, and is kind of more of a, I don't know, he's using like a more kind of possession guy who might win some jump balls. Funchess looked explosive last night. That back shoulder where he just took it upfield, I was impressed.
I think that's what the Panthers have been waiting for to get out of Funchess, and I think this is I think he's just going to keep on rolling after the bye week. Of course, the Panthers are on a bye this week, so I think that they're going to start to get things rolling.
I just hope Samuel's injury doesn't. Because you got to account for him. He kind of changes the game plan. Hopefully he doesn't allow, Funchess to get him a few more double teams. And
there's a possibility Olsen should be back, too. So that's
true.
Out, too. I want to throw this out there, though, with Cam Newton. The year he won MVP, he didn't have Calvin Benjamin out there that season at all.
No.
So what's that tell you right now?
And was it Philly Brown, just running streaks?
Yeah.
I mean, it was all speed. So.
And then Greg Olsen doing his thing,
Greg Olsen's a beast, yeah.
So, the Panthers.
And their run game is getting going, and McCaffrey does it all.
Yeah.
And he's getting some confidence.
Jonathan Stewart,
look out.
Actually fixed things up a little bit and ran for over 100 yards, so that helps them out.
Which it was against Miami's defense. But they're also, when they come back from bye, they're getting 2 Pro Bowlers off IR. They're getting their center, Khalil, and they're getting Greg Olsen back. So I'm excited for that offense.
Yeah.
AJ, talking about my Packers. It's great to have the win, but it sucks losing Aaron Jones.
I think
and we lost Tam Montgomery.
I think, it hurt a lot of fantasy owners because they were feeling like, okay, they're going to do the 1-2 punch with him and Montgomery.
Right.
And then
he was the man.
Yeah, and he gets hurt.
Yeah.
So now he's out 3 to 6 weeks is what I say. Basically, he is out basically potentially the rest of for sure the fantasy regular season up to week 13, but possibly the rest of the season up to through the playoffs as well. So basically, you're going to probably just you have to drop the guy.
I would say so. It's an MCL injury, and they're not saying the severity of it, but if it's 3 to 6 weeks, you better believe something. There's either a slight tear. It's a severe injury, and I mean, you have a running back who has a severe knee injury.
Isn't this what happened to Sam Bradford earlier this year too?
His was ACL.
Okay,
which is even worse.
Right.
But I mean, MCL is still that still makes it still keeps everything in check. So it sucks. The tie went out again with ribs again. I seen McCarthy said he expects him to play against the Ravens this week. So obviously it wasn't nothing too bad. He probably got hit, got there, and the wind knocked out of him, went back and got x-rays and everything, and they seen everything was fine. So I expect him to probably play. Go get Jamal Williams if you can. And then last but not least, Devontae Freeman. We've been waiting to get Freeman back on the field with these knee and ankle injuries or whatever he's been having, lower body injuries, and then all of a sudden he has a concussion after, 3 yards? I started him in one league, and I looked and was like, you have got to be kidding me.
This wasn't a pretty week.
No.
In general. You had guys that broke out, and then you had a lot of guys that were vultured, and then you had guys that were getting hurt.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
There were some odd games this week for sure.
Very odd games, and one I want to touch on now that we're going to move on from that. And also, just to really talk Freeman real quick, they're saying that he probably won't play this week.
Yeah, I would expect him to be out.
He'll probably just miss this week, and then he should be back week 12.
Yeah.
That's my guess as well, too. So, touching on that, that odd games, odd players. Yeah. 49ers get their first win.
I was
big
wrong.
Time. Big time.
I'll say it. I
think
wrong.
because I'm not saying that I am not expert, but basically everybody was thinking that the Giants would have a field day against the 49ers, and that was the opposite of what happened.
Right.
C.J. Beathard. I always don't know if I said
Beat hard.
CJ beat hard. Beat hard. He beats hard, and he did beat hard. He beat hard on the Giants. Basically,
he did.
He had a big game: 288 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 15 yards rushing, and a rushing touchdown. Best game of his career thus far. First win, and then and also touching on that 49ers game, Marquise Goodwin, just the big catch. It was an emotional catch for him.
Yeah,
losing their little one.
I can't even begin to imagine what that would be like.
No, but I mean,
talking about a heavy heart going into the game.
Yeah, and then we're just touch on quarterbacks though too. Minnesota gets the win this past week as well too. Case Keenum had a big game.
Balled out.
304 yards,
Jeez.
4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He'll throw the ball. He will throw the ball. He might get your interceptions, but he'll justify for it because and I saw this posted on Twitter. And it was I gotta find this real quick. It's a little tweet, but I mean Minnesota looked good.
Yeah, if you have Thielen, if you started Thielen like at the start of the week, if you listened to this last week and you said, you know what, he's right, I'm gonna.
Our few listeners,
which obviously you were gonna start Thielen, but blew up, went off.
Here's the tweet I want to address right here.
So
it's from at Michael David Smith. Jared Goff had 355 yards and 3 touchdowns today. Case Keenum had 304 yards and 4 touchdowns today. Last year, Goff and Keenum were both on the Rams, who had the worst offense in the NFL. I'm beginning to think Jeff Fisher and his staff were not a bunch of offensive geniuses. I think, just that
the more that this Rams team goes on,
1800s offense, that system that Jeff Fisher and Rob bored us had was just dreadful, and it really held those players back. And Case Keenum's always been a guy I've always thought that when he played for Houston, he was a slinger in Houston too.
Yeah.
Both pros and college.
Right?
College, he was. I think he still has the record for most pass yards in a career. And also, when he played for the Texans, he was balling out too as well with Andre. Just slinging it.
Yeah, it just fathoms me that I'm speechless that Jeff Fisher coached this team last year, and they were.
They pulled
below 500.
They've pulled a 180. Like right now, they have the chance. If they have the chance to finish the season as the first team to ever do this in NFL history.
Definitely the coaching staff.
Yeah. So they have they could be the first team to do this in history. From going last year as the worst offensive scoring team, pulling a 180 to the highest scoring offensive team.
Wow. Yeah, that's
hasn't
crazy.
been done before. Okay, so a few more touching a couple more quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So Cam Newton obviously had the best week of quarterbacks.
Number one.
Jared Goff.
You started
Jared
him, like
Goff.
I said.
Jared Goff, I had him starting for me this week, and I was a little worried at first because they started off slow in the first half.
Yeah.
He was my quarterback this week, and then I had Kirk Cousins as my other quarterback, which I didn't think he would play as good as he did. So Kirk Cousins actually, helped a lot of people.
Kirk Cousins been making magic this week.
He had a lot of help on the ground just by getting those 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
So that was not expected, but I think Minnesota didn't expect Kirk Cousins to move, just
rip them apart.
Just do those run touchdowns. So Kirk Cousins, he's the guy that can perform when he wants to perform. I think he was in a tough stretch the last couple of weeks.
I don't know. He's been making a lot out of nothing. I mean, you got to think their whole offensive line's basically hurt. There's Pro Bowlers along that line, and his receivers are giving him nothing. Look at they go out and spend money on Terrell Pryor, nothing. Their slot, nothing. The only guy they're really counting on is Doxson, who's getting a bomb here and there to kind of carry him down the field. Really, all he's going to is, Davis and Reed, and then he's hitting the little scat back out of the backfield. Thompson. Yeah. So, I mean, that's just their offense. And then whatever they can't get, he's making up for on his feet. Mm-hmm. He's been making a lot out of nothing.
All right. Running backs.
Pay that man.
Pay that man. Running backs to touch on. The Saints running backs.
Balling.
They are balling out. They are carrying this team pretty much.
Balling.
Mark Ingram, 131 yards.
3 touchdowns.
Three.
When I seen he got 2, I was like, ooh, because I'm a Kamara, and I'm like, come on, it's Kamara's time. And then certainly he got the next one. Then Ingram came in and just went in and put the cherry on top for that last touchdown.
Yeah, Sean Payton's getting
nice.
21 finally out of the running backs
on
his team.
It's
he's been waiting to have a running back that can really catch the ball like Kamara. Kamara has been praised coming out of college, coming from Tennessee, and then Mark Ingram's. My opinion, I mean, years ago, I feel like people wanted to call him a bust just because of the injuries.
Yeah, he looked like he was on
Mark
that path.
Ingram's a stud.
Right.
He's a stud. He's playing. He's
dragging people 5, 6, 10 yards at a time. It's ridiculous. He has guys hanging off of him going for 8 yards.
I think he's honestly right now. I think he's a top 5 back in the league right now. Honestly.
Oh yeah.
And Kamara's top
just
10
based
somewhere
on,
just because he does enough. Kenyon Drake is basically the top back for the Miami backfield right now.
That big touchdown run probably sealed it. I expect him to be the starter.
Yeah, I mean he's
or at least
it's those Alabama products basically.
Yeah,
they can run the ball, but he's a great pass catcher too. He can,
so fast.
He only had 10 yards receiving.
You've seen his speed.
Yeah,
he ran away from everybody.
Good.
That Carolina defense is fast. That's not a slouch defense. He just ran away from.
Yeah, and another running back. So DeMarco Murray bounced back.
The number one defense actually.
Yardage wise, DeMarco Murray didn't have a stellar yardage game. 42 yards rushing, 30 yards receiving, but 2 touchdowns rushing, and then one touchdown receiving.
I had 3 the whole game.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns.
Man, he bought it. Yeah.
So he bounced back for fantasy owners. I don't know if that, to seeing the yardage count, I don't know if that's like something I'm like going goo goo gaga over.
I'm not worried about it. I think Mariota. I mean, they get him down to the end zone, and then
I think once they get everything flowing, and then, everybody gets really healthy.
He looks healthier every week, and then
I think they're still getting rhythm, especially with Corey Davis.
These receivers, once they get these receivers clicking, that whole offense is just going to be clicking. You're going to want to start them all.
Another running back who basically was Captain Vulture this week, Austin Eckler for the Chargers.
Son of a bum.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a Gordon owner, it sucked. Watching him, Gordon outsnapped him, had more carries, had more targets, and he had more catches and was more productive with the work that he got, which is unsettling to say the least. He did fumble in that last drive to put the game away. I don't know why he even had the ball to put the game away, because I would think that'd be Melvin Gordon's job. But they was giving him carries in the last drive to seal this game, and he ended up fumbling. So I think that hurts his value, which I'm happy for Gordon owners who took him in the first round, but it's definitely something to keep your eye on. He makes me nervous.
Eckler is a definite handcuff option.
And if you're in PPR, he's a starter. Pick him up if you're in PPR and start him. Yeah. That's what I say.
All right, so I think those are the top running backs for this week. Top receivers, number 1 receiver this week, big play, Robert Woods. Robert Woods.
Big 94-yard touchdown.
171 yards, 2 touchdowns.
He killed me. He almost He was almost the reason I lost this week. By himself, almost.
You should have lost.
In our league, these big plays hurt, so he scored over 40 points in our league, which was tough to watch.
Yeah. And then number 2 was A.J. Green.
I knew he was going to have that. Revenge game was just coming. It was coming.
Yeah, he needed it. And then this is the one. This is a vulture player right here. Chester Rogers for the Colts.
Oh.
Coming out of nowhere. I'm still going to say I don't recommend picking up this guy. I just think it just happened to be right place, right time. I mean, plus T.Y. Hilton was aggravated by the groin injury, though. He was playing with a slight groin injury.
Yeah, and I think Moncrief is just falling off. He's falling off a cliff.
Moncrief had 60 yards and a touchdown.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap.
Yeah, but still, with these Colts receivers, you can't trust them.
No.
Hilton's
before this game.
It's hard to say you can't trust Hilton but Hilton has those weeks where it's like he's good one week, he's bad the next week, or bad for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's basically matchup driven for Hilton.
Yeah.
Basically for the Colts offense, it's matchup driven.
Yeah.
Honestly,
him and Brissett's on the same page. The timing's getting better.
Yeah, Brissett and Frank Gore are basically the guys. I hate saying Frank Gore, but these are the guys that you can trust to get you consistent points. It's not like mind blowing points at all, but they get consistent enough points.
Right.
Another receiver, your start of the week, Adam Thielen.
Balled out.
He balled out.
Like
he, basically, you can say this guy's a top receiver in this league. I mean, I think people doubted him just because the matchup wasn't. Yeah, because Washington wasn't even. Washington's a difficult matchup against receivers, but the way the Vikings move Thielen and Diggs around, it just helps them out. Moving, bouncing.
They caught passes on everyone. It didn't matter where they were.
Yeah, Thielen. That one little touchdown.
They're exceptional.
That short touchdown pass that Thielen caught, came through in that little tight pocket area, and Thielen had to dive to his right for it.
Body control was sick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Marquise Goodwin had the big catch, so that helped him out in terms of big play points in our league.
Right.
And then Devin Funchess finally stepped up. We already talked about him, but I'm not going to go into detail. But Devin Funchess finally looked the way you want him to look.
Yeah.
So, and then now the tight ends real quick. Garrett Selleck, 49ers tight end, was the top. Basically, the tight ends in the 49ers are going to be those guys that they're getting the ball thrown to them just because the option's really not there except for Goodwin on a big play.
Yeah.
But the safety blanket is those tight ends.
He just kind of got one and just kind of – I don't even know how he got away from the people that he got away from. He just kind of outran them in a weird slow-motion way and scored.
And then,
it was an odd touchdown.
Yeah. So your next 2 tight ends – were your Thursday nighters. Jimmy Graham, he only had 27 yards, but he had the 2 touchdowns, so that just helped out. Yeah. This has just been an odd year for tight ends.
And it's nice to see Russell Wilson lately looking for Jimmy Graham in the red zone. So
I think a lot of owners that have Jimmy Graham, that was the worry through most of that season so far. And, now he's becoming that target.
He's validating it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Jermaine Gresham was number 3, which that's a name you don't hear that much that often at
but
all.
Maybe you should.
And then back into the touchdown zone. Austin Hooper, he's finally got a touchdown back again. It's been a while. I mean, because basically he's been because of his week 1, almost the near 30 points. He's been waking back. Well, okay, he had a touchdown 2 weeks ago against the Jets, but he's just been inconsistent. He's ranked up there high for tight ends overall just because of those weeks.
It's been so bad, and it's been so bad this year. So
yeah, I mean, and then finally Brick Hands Eric Ebron, he was number 5 tight end.
Yeah.
Well, he was actually tied with Ed Dixon.
That's funny when you catch a touchdown.
Him and Ed
and you
Dixon
still get
basically
booed.
had identical stats for the most part.
It's bad when you catch a touchdown and they still boo you.
Yeah. That man's got to go.
He's going to be somewhere else next year.
So, and then our top kicker, which is no surprise, Greg Zuerlein was the top kicker.
He's been the
top scorer in the league, I think, right now, over in NFL wise. He's the top scorer in the league. Connor Barth is up there, too. He was number 2 against the Packers. Then Mason Crosby. So, basically, that was a field goal-driven game, too, as well.
It was, yeah.
And then Nick Rose, he's in for Dustin Hopkins as the kicker in Washington right now, as Hopkins is out. And then Will Lutz was number 5, rounding it out. Lutz is a guy you can rely on, too, for the rest of the way, too. He's consistent. He had
10 points a game.
Yeah, he's averaging decent numbers for you. The Saints will kick a field goal when they need to kick a field goal.
Oh yeah,
they trust their kicker. All right,
definitely.
And then defenses.
And they're getting down there.
Top defenses this week, and I think a couple of them some of us wouldn't expect. Atlanta Falcons were the number 1 defense against the Dallas Cowboys. And
that's because Claiborne broke the career record of 6 sacks with the Tyron Smith-less Cowboys.
Mm-hmm. And then total sacks for that game for the Falcons was 8 sacks.
That's insane.
Yeah, and then number 2 defense, turnover machines, the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah.
So they've been playing good lately. So I mean, if you have them as a defense, I mean, I'm sure you've been happy with their last 4 games. So in our league, our big dog league,
this is the stretch where you
26 against Jacksonville, 22 against Arizona, bye week, 15 against the Giants, 17 against Houston. Now the Rams' schedule does get tough from here
Although,
on
as
out.
you say that, none of those offenses scare me.
No, but this is where it gets scary now.
Okay.
So this coming up week 11, the Rams are at Minnesota.
Yeah.
So basically,
that's a tough place to play.
It is a tough place to play, but you never, like, for some reason, Case Keenum does play like a roller coaster. He's up and down from times. He will sling it.
And he's going to give you some turnovers, so, fantasy-wise, keep him in.
Yeah, I mean, I have the Rams defense, and I'm going to play them the rest of the way. Then the week after that, Saints. Another tough matchup.
Oh, yeah.
That's a tough one, too, but they're at home. The Rams are at home for that one.
Yeah.
And then they have an easy game. And who knows who's the quarterback at this time for the Cardinals? They're at Arizona.
Sure.
It's either Gabbert or Stanton. And if Stanton comes back, I don't think his injury was out too long. I know Gabbert's supposedly supposed to play this coming up week.
Yeah.
Then you got Philadelphia, which that's the game I'm looking forward to. That's good. You finally get the matchup between Goff and Wentz.
Yeah, that's pretty hyped up. I'm excited for that one, too.
So that's another tough matchup as well, too. But the Rams, I mean, they do surprise you against good offenses, though, too. Like, they can play when they want to play. And then the last 2 games, it's a tough playoff stretch for the Rams defense. Philadelphia, week 14. At Seattle, week 15. And then week 16 is Tennessee, which who knows how that Tennessee offense is going to look.
They've been tough for defenses putting a lot of points on them because th're running the ball and Mariota's just taking care of the ball and taking what they give him. So it is kind of a tough defense.
Hey, so that's your week 10 recap right there. I would say still, I guess this is a very biased pick. Well, actually, most surprising team was the 49ers getting their first win in the fashion that they did. Because I did not expect them to beat the Giants like they did. And Green Bay got the win over the Bears. I think the Bears would have thought the Bears would have played a little bit tougher of a game. So it's good to see like the Packers starting to get back into gear a little bit.
Yeah.
Jamal Williams is still a vulture out there. I mean, I know everybody either had. I'm sure most people had Jones or Montgomery out there in their lineup somewhere.
Right, and both of them ended up disappointing.
Yeah, both getting hurt basically and banged up, and then Williams comes back in and gets the job done at running back. Yeah. So, in terms of waiver wire pickups, I'm going to jump ahead to waiver wire pickups.
I got one for you while you're in the Green Bay game. I'm keeping my eye on Dontrell Inman. I'll probably go ahead and pick him up if I need receiver help because he went 8 targets. Okay, he had 6 catches for 88 yards. He's going to be, and he's only been in Chicago for 2 weeks. He's going to be that guy, and I feel like he's going to be getting double-digit targets soon. He is Mr. Consistent. He can score touchdowns. I expect him to actually he might be able to make a little bit of noise in fantasy here going down the stretch because the Bears need somebody. They've been injury riddled and they've been inconsistent. So if you're looking for a receiver, he's probably the only guy on that team besides Kendall Wright who has been inconsistent and runs these kooky routes and the timing is so bad. It's just go with Inman.
All right. And he's become one of the top pickups in fantasy this coming week. He's been a top added player. His percentage change in ownership isn't much because he's really not that owned. He's almost near 0% owned.
Yeah.
But
stash him.
Yeah, he had
you needed receivers.
Almost 9 points last week. He had 88 yards. I think because that offense is just like injury ridden.
Yeah, and I think if he stays healthy, that's probably his floor. And how many receivers can you say is going to get you 8 points a week?
That's flex numbers right there, at least.
I mean, yeah.
That's wide receiver 3.
That might even be wide receiver 2, depending on
the game.
Who you got? Yeah, right. Matchups.
It's a tough. It's tough this far in the season. It's just a tough stretch to find guys at this point.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the guys are either hurt and there's just a bunch of scrubs coming in.
Or you have these guys like Julio and Brown who you expect you can't sit, but then they laying goose eggs left and right. So, I like Inman's.
So, Inman's a good one.
Sure.
Guys that you should have added them last week, but I will touch on again because they're still not that much owned in most leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Woods, he in NFL leagues he's only owned 25. He's only owned 33%.
Yeah, you have to. After last week, I expect that to double.
Yeah, I feel like you have to pick up this man.
You have to.
Right now. And another one that I feel like you should pick up, I feel confident in picking up at this point. I say he's like wide receiver 3, touching wide receiver 2 still, and Marquise Lee.
And he's the important part about him is that he's getting touchdowns. He's getting touchdowns. He's getting red zone looks. Mm-hmm. He's in the slot running these little slants and outs, and the ball is finding him. I mean, he's established himself as the top receiver in Jacksonville. Another receiver that should be picked up. His ownership did go up last week or a couple weeks ago. They should be added, and I will talk about him too in our fantasy outlook in terms of can you trust these guys to be weekly starters the rest of the way? That'll be a coming up segment in just a moment. Juju Smith-Schuster. I think he's an every week starter, and you have to pick him up if he's out there.
Yeah, if he's out there, pick the man up. Another one.
He's good.
Yeah, another one too to look at as well. Because now he is the number 1 receiver, Sterling Shepard, for the Giants. Yeah, he is a guy you got to pick up. He had 142 yards against the 49ers. He didn't have a touchdown, but Eli Manning is going to throw the ball to guys that he only trusts, and basically that is Sterling Shepard and Evan Ingram in terms of receiving.
And that's about it.
There's no one else. Everyone's hurt. You can't trust the other guys. Right. And Corey Coleman's making a comeback.
Yep, he's coming off.
He's coming back. It's not a good game to come back though. To play Jacksonville.
No,
it's not a good game to come back.
Not a good game.
But he is.
But I've seen stranger things happen.
Yes, he is set to return Week 11 for the Browns. Would I say he's a pickup? Honestly, I would say he's a guy that it's a wait-and-see approach. Honestly, because this team's I just don't like watching Cleveland.
And I just want to back that what you said earlier about Marquise Lee. Allen Hurns had an ankle injury, expected to miss. He was on a walking boot after the game. So Lee might be the only guy available to catch passes in that offense. So
yeah. All right. And then let's see. Running backs. I'm going to touch on running backs real quick. Top running back pickup for me at this point, I'm going to say 2 of them. I'm going to say Jamal Williams for the Packers.
Yeah, definitely.
Basically, I feel like
he's the only guy healthy. The only healthy guy that we have. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
And then the other one is Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
I feel like you can trust this guy enough, at least to be you should handcuff this guy at least. Melvin Gordon does have a slight history of injuries, but I mean Melvin Gordon. Something has to be up with Melvin Gordon for him not to perform like this. And Eckler.
That's what I'm thinking too. And he's had lower body injuries all year. That's been holding him back,
especially at this point.
Yeah, I mean. You might even take Eckler and just say, let's see what happens with the backfield, with the volume. Let's see what happens with Gordon the next few games. Because, like you said, he could be injury prone. So, yeah, Eckler's a guy to keep your eye on.
Yeah, and
I also think Burkhead might sneak his way in. There's some people, I don't trust any of the Patriots' backs, but Burkhead, he got the first carry of the season, which means something to Bill Belichick. He had a blocked punt.
He started.
Yeah, he started. Had a blocked punt. He had a touchdown. He had a ton of those little, underneath routes, kind of like what Edelman used to do and what Amendola does. He could be the guy. It just hurts me that because I know Deion Lewis is there, and Deion Lewis has, the same skill set, just a little bit smaller frame.
But Deion Lewis has been being that top running back for them too, and Gillespie's just disappeared.
Yeah, he's a healthy scratch, which is heartbreaking.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something you don't expect to see. I mean, but I mean, I kept reading the reports that Burkhead's the guy to look at in this. Well, I did, see a report basically every time the Patriots played the Broncos, they use their running backs to the most potential that they can.
Anytime they play a team with great pass rush, their backs is in the flats and running all kind of different routes and just chipping on their way out and just making it. These guys are rushing in, and Tom Brady's just putting the ball over their head and dinking and dunking, and then the pass rush slowly fades.
They're just slowly.
It's just their game plan.
Basically, when they played the way they played the Broncos, they just slowly chopped the tree down. That's what they did, and they just wore that defense.
And then
out.
Once the tree started to fall, that tree fell.
It fell
hard.
Yeah, and Brian Hoyer made an appearance. Back in a Patriots uniform. He goes from the worst team in the league to one of the best teams in the league again.
Good for him.
Yeah. And I think that was a good move on the Patriots' part.
For Martellus Bennett.
Yeah.
Sad as I want to say that.
Quarterbacks. There's a few bye week quarterbacks this week. Basically, that would be the only reason I would see fit to pick up a quarterback.
Yeah.
So, who's our bye week teams? You got Panthers.
Cam's out with the Panthers. McCowan train comes to, it just takes a stop. It's
just pulling off to the side of the road real quick. Fixing a flat tire after it lost to the Buccaneers.
Bethard, I don't know if you really even want him. And then you got Brissett, who's probably been, he might be.
He's been a good. I feel like he's been a good stream option for a lot of people.
I
at this
think so.
point.
Yeah.
He is. I would say he should be owned as at least a QB2 on your team. There's something about him.
He's got some swag to him. He's got he's just calm and cool in the pocket, and he knows he runs what he needs to. And there's a couple times you're like, wait, why did you do that? But for the most part, you're looking at him like, this guy looks pretty good.
Yeah, you live and you learn, and that's what happens when you play in a Belichick system. So, he's a Super Bowl winner.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And his timing with those deep balls have been looking nice.
So, basically, if you're looking for a quarterback to pick up this week, a few of them out there, top quarterback, you can look at, let's say, Case Keenum.
His offense have been running really, really smooth since they've gotten rid of all-star running back Jay Ajayi. The Dolphins' offense hasn't been bad.
Isn't looking bad. Cutler.
Panthers are the number one defense, and they didn't take over the game like I expected them to. So,
there's a few, but quarterbacks out there. Yeah, Cutler. Honestly, I do like Cutler. I mean,
Cutler had
the Buccaneers this week.
They had the little pitch inside that ended up being, a passing touchdown to Julius Thomas, and then he likes to throw to these backs in the flat, like he did in Chicago. He likes that in the red zone. So even if he's not making huge plays, throwing bombs to Devontae Parker or Landry or whoever it might be, he might get you a few touchdowns just by dinking and dunking to tight ends and running backs. So.
Yeah. But with quarterbacks, to possibly look at out there, I like Blake Bortles. They play Cleveland this week.
Sure.
Blake Bortles is not playing bad. He did throw the ball a lot, though.
And,
he threw for, I think, 51 times in the game against the Chargers last week.
It's guaranteed that a tight end catches the ball in Cleveland. They've allowed a tight end touchdown in every single game this season. So if you need a tight end flyer, maybe you go and pick up the guy who just randomly comes in and catches 3 touchdowns when he feels good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and then...
So, Mercedes Lewis might be a little sneaky pick this week.
Good. Okay, so, yeah.
That's good Bortles.
Mm-hmm. So, Bortles is I'd say he's a good stream option this week. Say if your quarterback is Cam Newton.
Sure.
Because I don't really see most people. I mean, McCown would be the other quarterback I would see people owning as a starter for them.
Yeah.
The other two teams.
Nah, nobody's owning Beathard and probably Brissett as their starters, unless you've had crazy injuries.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just unfortunate. We're sorry.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would say the top 3 quarterback pickups this week is I'd still pick up Keenum with how that Minnesota team's playing, with how he's been playing, slinging the ball. I would say he's a good option. It's not the most ideal matchup. I mean, the Rams don't allow that many points to quarterbacks. They are basically the third best team against quarterbacks in terms of points. They allow the third least points.
Yeah. So it's just tough because they have 2 legit number 1 receivers with Thielen and Diggs. Mm-hmm. They can make plays anywhere in the field
just how they
at
play
any point.
Too. That's the thing. That's what makes it work.
And then Rudolph.
And you got Rudolph, who can pop up out of somewhere.
And both their backs are complementary. It's a tough offense to stop.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right.
I think you could also pick up if Big Ben is out there, which he isn't a lot of league. I think he's starting to kind of come on a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean,
they played Tennessee on Thursday night.
And Tennessee's defense has not been stellar.
And they're at home, too.
They're at home.
Big Ben plays better at home.
And like they've been saying, for a lot of the defensive players around the league have been complaining a lot lately about how, as it gets down this stretch, how it's so hard to prepare for these Thursday night games as a defense because you just can't, you don't have enough time to game plan for these.
Right.
So that even helps some of the offense out, these Thursday night matchups. So I would be comfortable starting Big Ben this week.
Yeah. I think Big Ben's...
knowing that you have Bell and Brown and Juju and Brian even had a touchdown last week. So he's starting to, maybe get a little mojo back. So,
yeah. All right, so let's go on and jump now to our fantasy outlook.
Sure.
Do we think these guys can be weekly starters the rest of the way?
From here on out.
So I'm going to just throw out some names, touch on it a little bit. First one, I kind of want to go in a little more detail because we already talked about him first. Juju Smith-Schuster.
I say so. I think he's a starter from here on out. Big Ben's looking his way. He's getting open. He's explosive. He's made some really good catches. Really, really good. His reaction is incredible with his hands and coordination. So I start Juju knowing that he could break a big play. He's running lots of different routes. He's in the slot. I love it when slot receivers are explosive and they line up in the slot and they run those seam. They just go right up the seam. That's the fastest way to the end zone, and that's the fastest way to get yards. And he does that very well.
All right. Quarterback, can Jared Goff be a QB1 the rest of the way for you in your lineups?
I think so. We talked We talked a little bit about some matchups that he's got coming up, like the Eagles. So temper expectations on a few of his matchups. But depending on who your QB1 is, if you're going back and forth between maybe him and Breeze, who, the Saints are, I think it kind of depends also. It depends on who your other quarterback is, if you have one, and then matchups. You know what I mean? If you need a whole lot of points, you need somebody to explode. If you're down to Monday night and say you got Jared Goff, or you got to score a whole bunch of points and you got Goff or Breeze. You probably score Goff thinking that he could blow up. Otherwise, you got Breeze scoring 20 points a game or 19 points a game. Mm-hmm. So I think he is. Unless you have a insane quarterback. Unless you have a Cam. Not really a consistent. Unless you have Brady, maybe.
Yeah, I have Jared Goff on my team, but my other quarterback's Kirk Cousins, and right now I'm kind of still.
And they're so close; it's almost matchup.
That's
almost matchup.
I'm basing it off matchup just because I don't know. The Saints defense is playing a hell of a lot better right now, and that's who Washington has this week, and then the Rams got Minnesota. So basically, almost like I kind of want to do like a coin flip, just because I'm kind of.
I start him every week. There's no other quarterback that I'm looking. Unless you have Wentz or. Unless you have Wentz or Brady, start him.
All right, next player. Can you trust this guy the rest of the season as a wide receiver 1 or 2 for your team? Maybe a 2. I'm gonna say, can you trust T.Y. Hilton the rest of the way every week, or is he a weekly matchup guy, or is he based on the matchup?
First of all, if we're talking about a pretty healthy T.Y. Hilton, I think so. Just because he's one of your studs, you drafted him early, and I start him with confidence. Because plus Brissett's he's got some swag to him. He's starting to kind of really play football. Their pass protection has been very good, which is great because as long as they can hold up, T.Y. Hilton is getting the ball down the field. So his pass protection is getting better. He's staying in the pocket, standing tall, delivering balls, and his deep accuracy has been getting better. His timing has been getting better with T.Y. So, and T.Y.'s had some couple huge games here lately. So, I definitely start T.Y. Rest of the season.
All right. And I'm going to go to the Browns running backs right now.
Oh, Lord.
Isaiah Crowell, Duke Johnson. Let me say this, though. Isaiah Crowell, the last 4 weeks, has outscored Duke Johnson points in just about every week.
Yeah.
Duke Johnson hasn't had a touchdown since week 5.
No. He's just kind of getting yards on rushing and receiving. Which is kind of he has a high ceiling, I guess.
Let's see, Crowell is actually...
But Crowell's been churning them lately. Crowell's been churning them legs.
Crowell is the 11th. In the last 4 weeks, Crowell is the 11th running back.
Yeah.
Right now. So do you trust Isaiah Crowell as a starter, though? Could you, now that he's actually getting back into gear where he should have been a few weeks ago?
Sure.
RB2. So would you say you can trust him in your lineup every week, though?
Yes, unless the matchup is terrible. Unless they're playing the Eagles. Mm-hmm. Or the Panthers or one of those, top run defenses, which I don't think they are.
And then one more running back I just want to touch on, too, Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon. This is just a sad, sad story. He comes out and he's running the ball and he looks electric. And then he only gets how many rushes? 10, 12?
Yeah, last game he only had 9 rushes for 37 yards.
Are you kidding me?
He had a touchdown. And then he had a 3-yard catch.
Come on. Give him the ball. See what he can do. I'm going to talk real softly. Maybe this will persuade Marvin Lewis. Marvin Lewis, give him the ball.
Barry White their ears.
Give him the ball.
Give him that ball, baby.
Give him 18 carries.
Yeah. I feel like they just flip-flop on Cincinnati just flip-flops on what they want to do. Of course, but out of the last 4 games, they've only won 1 game.
And I don't trust him unless I have to. As talking about him being a starter the rest of the week, unless I have to have him in my lineup as RB2, I don't do it. He's touchdown dependent. He's not getting the volume. Jeremy Hill's on IR. It's basically him and Bernard, and they're still not getting. He's getting. What was that? 10 targets total with catches and runs. It's just not enough to be fantasy relevant on a bad team.
Let's see. Actually, there's a lot of running backs I'm just looking at that I want to touch on too. Devontae Freeman.
saddens my ear. When he comes back, I'm excited, and I expect him because he came in on that hit 50-50. He was squared up, ready to deliver a blow. He just got blown up. So he came out, and he looked sparry. So when he comes back, I expect him to come back as Devontae Freeman and ball out. He's just kind of got to get this.
Do you trust him in your lineup every week?
Yes.
He hasn't scored over double
unless
digit
he's
points.
playing Denver. Yes.
Yeah, since week 4. He's got Seattle Monday night.
His injuries.
Yeah.
He's had so much time to kind of rest, I feel like, in between, not getting a ton of volume and bye weeks, and I think he should be ready. When he gets this concussion clear, I think he'll come back ready to hit it.
All right.
Hopefully Atlanta's still kind of in the hunt by then. If they get this win in Seattle, he's going to be.
They need this win.
Yeah.
But and then one more team. I mean, I feel like you can trust them both. You got Minnesota's running backs, Latavius Murray, and then Jerick McKinnon.
Yeah.
Do you trust? Is Murray a guy that you can trust? Is Murray a guy you can trust every week?
I think Murray more so than McKinnon because he's getting goal line carries. Well, actually, both of them are. Both of them are getting goal line work. It just happened to be that play we were talking about earlier with he stepped up and threw it to Thielen. The play before that, actually, that play McKinnon was in throwing a block, and the play before that he had a carry and just didn't, he just didn't get into the end zone. So they're both getting goal line work. I just think Murray is huge, and his availability for getting in the end zone is going to be more than McKinnon. Mm-hmm. But it goes by game script. If you know you're playing a great offense, even though if they're kind of on the road and they're playing a great defense, maybe you go with McKinnon because he can catch those balls and do those types of things. But realistically, the Vikings defense is keeping them in every game.
Yeah. So
you're feeling pretty safe with the big power back.
All right.
I am anyway.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the end of this episode. There's nothing else I really feel like we need to touch on. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Not that I see. No.
All right. So make sure you put in those waiver requests as it is waiver day for fantasy football.
Oh, there was one more waiver. Actually, now I see here. If you have a chance and you have a spot, I know we're throwing receivers at you like Inman. Remember back to week 1 when Kenny Galladay had that amazing week where he had 2 touchdowns and the big play and almost 100 yards, and know that he's pretty much healthy and over that hamstring injury and productive last week. Had a big play last week. So just keep that in the back of your mind as you're putting in waiver wire targets. And maybe you look and you say, oh, I have a bench spot open and I need a big play receiver. Come here, Kenny. I'll hold on to you because Stafford loves to throw the ball.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he only played in the 11 of the 52 snaps that they had in the Cleveland game.
I think he had a 60-yard pass. I think he had a 60-yard
catch. 64 yards.
Yeah, and
he had 2 catches.
Yeah, one of them was for limited, one of them was for like 60 yards. So he's still going to be their big play guy.
Yeah, but there's plenty of mouth to feed on that offense too right now.
Hey,
I didn't talk about Amir Abdullah he got back in the end zone right there.
He did. I'm still hesitant. For some reason, I'm still hesitant to start Abdullah. I just don't trust him still. But them getting that left tackle Decker back is going to change my mind. I think a little bit. So
I think that's that I feel like I hate to say it for you, but I feel like that division for the North is a toss up between Detroit and Minnesota at this point. Now.
Clearly,
I feel like because they're just when you're healthy, when you got a healthy team, led by Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford is a top quarterback. I wouldn't go as far as say elite, but he's a top quarterback.
Yeah, both have great defenses and potent offenses, so
and it helps when you got both.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's going to be the end of this week's episode, or this Tuesday night edition of Fantasy Football Wrap Up. Make sure you get your waiver request in. If you ever have any questions, feel free to follow us on Twitter at the FF Ball Wrap Up on Twitter.
Right.
You can find us
Post
on there.
questions. We're on there all
day.
Send
us questions. We're on there all the time.
If it ends with a JG, it's Jesse. It's me. If it ends with
BR is me, Blake Randall.
Yeah.
Just follow us on Twitter. Just look for us, Fantasy Football Wrap Up. We do since you can only have so many words in there. You can do Fantasy Emoji Football Wrap Up. Just because I could type all that in there in our headline and stuff like that. But FF Ball Wrap Up is our Twitter handle. Feel free to follow us on there. Ask us questions.
Ask away.
And that's it. And that is a wrap.
Wrap it up.